The Canadiens always seem to get it right. A beautiful tribute to the late, great Ken Dryden. His mask on top of the net with the spotlight on the goal and everything else black, just befitting the great that he was. Then player introductions to get the team back on track and the fans rocking, and a game that goes to overtime where the Canadiens ultimately come away with a 5-4 win over the Seattle Kraken to open their 2025-2026 home season. Time for some post-game puck talk. Just when you thought it wasn't going to turn out to be a great night, it was. The Canadiens coming away with a 5-4 OT win over the Kraken. And before I get to the highlights, I am going to point one little thing out. RDS, stop talking about goaltenders between periods. Monty was doing great until you mentioned his stats from last year's home opener. He didn't allow a goal in the last 5 periods in home openers. That's the stat they came up with. I'm a goalie. I'm superstitious. It is what it is, right? You don't do that to a goalie. But anyway, I digress. Before we get to the highlights, let's talk about Insta Customs. They are your number one destination for custom apparel printing with the highest rated print shop in Canada with over 3,000 Google reviews, a 4.9 star rating, and nominated for 2024 Canadian Business Choice Award. They print on all your favorite clothing, plus coffee and travel mugs, and yes, they even offer embroidery. Most orders are printed and shipped the very same day, and large orders in less than 3 days with free shipping. Open 7 days a week, they're located downtown on Stanley Street, just a few blocks away from the Bell Center, and it's easy to remember because it's ties in with the Canadiens' ultimate goal of winning the Stanley Cup. So whether it's for yourself, a loved one, or your business, trust InstaCustoms. Visit them in person or order online at instacustoms.com. And it got off just the way we wanted it to. The Montreal Canadiens scoring 4:37 into the first period, and it's Alex Newhook opening the scoring on a beautiful pass from none other than Ivan Demidov. Carrier to Demidov. Watch Demidov. Stops, looks, fires. Great pass to Newhook. Puck goes in the net. You can't get any cleaner than that. Here's another look at it as the puck is on Demidov's stick. He hits the brakes, looks across, fires hard, and all Newhook had to do was put his puck on the stick, and it's 1-0 Montreal. And as I said, that's how it ended after the first period. Then 3:33 into the second, a beautiful cross-crease feed by Shane Wright to Jane Schwartz makes it 1-1. There's the goal. And Schwartz just tucking it in over Montembeau's shoulder. Nothing he could do there. An easy tap in. Here it is again. Bang, bang, boom. Not much for Monty to do there. And you're not gonna criticize that. Nobody is. Then it was Cole Caufield's turn just 4 minutes later to get on the scoreboard at 7:12 when he pops I would say a loose puck straight into the corner. And unfortunately here, Suzuki and Slavkovsky don't get assists, but their pressure forces the puck out, and Caufield rips it over the shoulder of Joey Decord to make it 2-1 for the Habs. Here it is again. Both guys in the corner, puck squirts loose on a bad pass out into the slot by Stevenson, and Caufield makes him pay. Everybody's happy, right? Well, as luck would have it, Yanni Neiman scores with about 2 minutes left, in the second period. And it's a goal that, it's one of those bounces, goes in off his shin guard as he's standing in front. Puck goes behind the net. They turn, fire, and it hits Neiman in the leg and goes behind Montembeau to make it 2-2 going into the third period. You'll see it here go off Neiman's left leg into the net. Nothing, again, that Monty could do. So a few unlucky bounces and a couple of goals, and the teams are even at 2 apiece after 40 minutes. Cue the third period, where we get more bad bounces, starting with Kirby Dach's first of the season. This time, it's Noah Dobson taking the shot, hitting the leg of Kirby Dach and going into the net. Everybody at first thought it was Dobson's goal, but ultimately, if you see the rebound here, the replay right here, Dobson shoots, Kirby in front, and it hits his left leg and goes in to make it 3-2 for the Habs. Then, a little bit of a controversial goal. I don't think really that the referees would have called it one way or the other, although they could have blown the play dead, and I'll explain why in a second. Olesiak ties the game up on a snapshot as he gets the puck here off the half wall, right into the slot, steps in, and rips it past Montembeault. And you'll see on the replay, Monty was screened. It was a flyby by Eberle right here. He loses the puck, and it's in the top corner. Again, good screen, nothing the goaltender could do, right? But here's the thing that I caught on display, and others did as well. Right before the goal, there are 6 players on the ice right here for the Kraken. I can't really see because the number is far away who came off the bench, but there's 6 guys on the ice right there. And the rule is that you have to be within 3 feet of your bench before you can initiate a change. That was well before the 3-foot mark. In fact, Stevenson's going to the bench, and he's still 3 feet away. So it should have been blown down. Maybe not too many men, because ultimately the player in question that came off the bench never really got involved in the play until Stevenson was off the ice. But nonetheless, there's one too many guys there, and something had to be blown down. But the officials missed it. That made it 3-3. Then another one of those lucky bounce goals. As the puck hits both Arbor Jacki and Jared McCann right in front of the net, as the shot comes in off Montour's stick, and then McCann just turns around and puts it home. A really tough situation there for Monty, because it's hard to pick up the puck when the player's spinning around like that to be able to be, to make a save. But he tried nonetheless, and it was 4-3. And it pretty much looked like the Canadiens were dead and buried at that point. But they got a late power play. And not that they scored on the power play, but at the tail end of it, a beauty of a goal from Ivan Demidov. He just shows so much patience in the slot as he passes the puck to Line A. He gets a return pass and then goes to his backhand, waits. Joey Decord down. Brendan Gallagher wreaking havoc in front. And it's 4-4. Now, for a second, I thought that the Kraken might very well challenge that because of the fact that Gallagher was in the crease. But since their defenseman was down in front, they decided not to avoid losing their timeout. And we go to overtime. The overtime pretty much went back and forth. No odd man rushes. And then with about a minute 35 left in overtime, Marty St. Louis calls a timeout. And I couldn't find the actual video for this, but they all go over to the bench. St. Louis is talking between Demidov and Evans, and he's talking to Hutson, Suzuki, and Caufield with a grin on his face. And he's just, kind of like shooting the shit. Not really drawing out a play, but talking to the guys, asking how they feel, what they're going to do, whatever. And what happens? Well, Cole Caufield gets the overtime winner. Suzuki wins the draw, gets back to Hutson. Hutson, one juke. Then he skates in, draws 2 players towards him. Puck goes to Caufield, rips it over the shoulder of Decord to get the overtime winner, and the Habs win it 5-4. Watch again where he puts this shot. There's no space, literally no space. Only spot is over Decord's shoulder, and he pops the twine on top of the net, and the Habs come away with a 5-4 victory. Everybody's happy leaving the Bell Center. The fans are cheering. After the game was over, Caufield was interviewed by Mark Denis, and he was thanking the fans for being there and that they do everything that they do for the fans. And you know what? Seeing the way the players react, seeing how happy they were on the bench, despite the fact that the game wasn't really going their way at a certain point, you could see that they weren't overly tense. They were still using speed. They were still trying to get their chances. I would still like them to get more shots on goal, but ultimately they win the hockey game 5-4, and everybody else goes home happy. Now, let's analyze this bugger, and we'll talk about our other partner, and that is cheapesttshirts.ca. Proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers, cheapesttshirts.ca delivers unbelievable value. With over 1,000 products and more than 36 trusted brands like Gildan, Jerseys, and American Apparel, their selection is unmatched. You'll always get the lowest prices plus same-day shipping, even next-day delivery, so your order arrives fast. Cheapesttshirts.ca is the go-to source for businesses, events, apparel printing companies, and resellers, or people just wanting to get the best deals on everyday clothing. Plus, enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes ordering online a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. Now, as some of you have pointed out in the comments, I am always critical of Montembeault. But I have to say tonight, despite the fact that he allowed 4 goals, I saw what I needed to see. He made saves with his stick. He was at the top of his crease. He was following the puck into his glove. All the things that I was asking him to do. And he did them. So you know that right now they're addressing those issues. So as critical as you thought I was of him, I'm not wrong about the misgivings in his play in the first 2 games that he played. So let's leave it at that. I'm happy with his performance tonight. He was good with his rebound control. He followed the puck. He tracked it well. Sure, he allowed a couple of goals on bad bounces. 1 net front goal and 1 on a screen. Can't really fault the goalie for that. And you know what? On nights where the goalie has bad luck, sometimes his players have to pick him up. And the Canadiens did that tonight. And what's there to say about Ivan Demidov? A goal and an assist. He was implicated all night long. You saw him out there generating offense. You saw what he did on the tying goal. You saw what he did on the first goal of the game when he passed the puck over to Newhook. That laser of the pass, Newhook doesn't have to shoot it on goal. He just has to put his stick down and let the puck hit it. And that's exactly what he did. So nothing to be said about that either. You got to be happy about the way Demidov played. All 4 lines looked engaged. They generated chances. Line A looked good at 5-on-5, and he looked good offensively. So let's stop picking on him because you're seeing him get more comfortable at 5-on-5, and in doing that, his offensive game is going to start to pick up. Baby steps. As I mentioned, his focus right now is 5-on-5, right? He's gotten a couple of chances on the power play. For some reason, his timing was off, but that also comes with the fact that you're not out there on the power play all the time, right? We saw how limited his time was. His timing was off on his one-timer. I guarantee you, tomorrow he'll be on the ice working on that one-timer again because that's just the type of player that he is. He saw his timing was off. He's going to fix it. 1 he healed, 1 he missed. Simple. So he's going to take care of that. But when he realized that his timing was off, instead of trying to get the one-timer and continuing to do the same thing, he varied his play, ultimately getting that pass to Demidov in the slot for the game-tying goal. So there's all these positives to look at in this hockey game. The Canadiens, again, in the face-off circle, were, where are we here? 56.3%. Can't argue with that number, right? Sure, they were 0 for life on the power play, just 2 opportunities tonight, but the power play did generate that tying goal as the penalty ended for the Kraken, and the player wasn't able to get back into the play early enough to be able to stop Demidov in the slot. So all things considered, a really good hockey game for the Montreal Canadiens. And the Seattle Kraken, for a team that's focusing on defense, as I mentioned in the preview, you got what you got from the core guys on this team. McCann scoring, Olesiak getting into the play, Montour creating offense, Eberle, a pest the entire way through, Schwartz contributing. I mean, it's the usual suspects, right? And more often than not, you're not going to be able to stop these guys. And they did get 4 past Mountain Bull tonight because they played extremely well offensively. Defensively, you could say the same thing. Limiting the Canadiens to 22 shots, a good game for the Seattle Kraken. The same can be said for the Montreal Canadiens. On the defensive side of the puck, there was not one defenseman that made any type of egregious mistake tonight. Let me know if you disagree with that in the comments, but I didn't see anything that would have popped out and said, oh, that's a horrible giveaway, or oh, that's a horrible pass. Mike Matheson pinched when he needed to, backed off when he needed to. Noah Dobson, same deal. Arbor Jacki looked good when he was out there. Hutson, you can't say anything about that kid. And of course, Carrier and Gouli doing their jobs. Carrier getting an assist on the Newhook goal to start the hockey game. So everything seems to be working okay for the Canadiens. Could they want to get better results? Absolutely. But when you limit the shots to 22, ultimately, if you continue doing that game in and game out, sometimes you're not going to get the stupid bounces. You're going to get pucks on goal that your goaltender is going to stop, given the way that Monty played tonight, and you're going to continue getting success. That's how the Canadiens have to play. I don't think that Marty St. Louis has a thing to say about today's hockey game. The guys were engaged. They took care of business. They possessed the puck in the offensive zone. The only thing that I think any of us can agree upon when it comes to the Canadiens right now is they can try to take more shots on goal. Oftentimes they try to get the puck too close and they're too fine with their possessions in the offensive zone. But other than that, I mean, they're getting dangerous chances in the offensive zone. They're putting pucks on goal, creating rebounds, getting, driving the net. And I think the only downside to today's game is the fact that Zach Bolduc didn't continue his goal scoring streak, stopping at 3. But he did get a couple of good scoring chances, but it is what it is, right? So the Canadiens come away from this game with a 5-4 overtime win. And, they're getting off to a very good start here, 3-1 to start the NHL season. And next up for them will be the Nashville Predators at home on Thursday night. I'll preview that game tomorrow. But there are a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about here and now, starting with not the Lane Hutson contract signing, because we talked about that yesterday, but the fact that today the Canadiens announced that both Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes were being re-upped for another 5 years. So this year plus another 5. And I don't know about you, but I don't remember the last time I was so happy that an executive was staying with the Canadiens. And the last time I had any type of, I would say, excitement when it came to an executive was when the Canadiens hired Bob Gainey. And of course, that fell flat after he handed the team over to Pierre Gauthier. But, executives don't normally generate any excitement when it comes to the fans, right? The fans, we look at stuff on the ice. But in this case, after what these two men have done over the past 3.5 to 4 years, I'm excited to see what the finish line looks like, right? They're going to finish off this season, and I know there's still more in the pipeline coming up. You talk Michael Hage having a good season in Michigan right now. 9 points, I think it is, in 3 games. You look at what's going on with Laval and the continued development of Adam Engstrom, Joshua Roy, Owen Beck. I mean, good things are happening for Montreal. So moving forward, I'm still every year I watch the draft when these two guys are there, and we watch the videos after the fact about the draft, right? Where we see what the Canadiens did, how they talk to the kids, and so on and so forth, right? And I love that stuff because a lot of times you don't see the inner workings. Everybody thinks that the game of hockey, for the most part, is all about what you do on the ice, but it's not. There's a lot of it has to do with what's between the ears and what's in your heart, right? Nothing jerks at your heartstrings more than Michael Hage's story, right? And of course, we knew about it. We saw it at the draft, right? And we saw it, when he got picked. But then they showed the interview when the team psychologist asked him about it. And I don't think there was a dry eye in the room because of what he said about his father, whether it was the Canadian, Nick Bobrov, Marty Lapointe, or Kent Hughes. I think all of them were touched by the kid's story, and rightfully so. And those are the things I want to see. And the fact that both Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes are so open, right? The other day, Kent Hughes came out and he sent a message to everybody like, stop with the public garbage. We're going to make this private, and we're going to get Lane Hutson signed. That's what he wanted because he saw what it was doing to the kid. That's a guy that cares. A GM that doesn't care wouldn't have come out and said that. And he went to all the different media sources and laid out the same message, whether it was in English or French. I love the staff and the executive at the Montreal Canadiens right now because they're building a winning culture. They've got analytics guys in there. They've got good hockey development people. They've got good amateur scouts. They've got good pro scouts that help Marty St. Louis game plan for the games coming up. And so all these pieces, along with an absolutely fantastic looking roster, there's a lot of excitement to be had in the next few years. So I'm all amped up. So congratulations to the new president of hockey operations. He's no longer the EVP. Now he's just the president of hockey operations. That does not mean that Jeff Molson is not the president of the hockey team. He is. But he's also the president of Eventco and the rest of the stuff that goes along with the Montreal Canadiens. So, he's letting Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes run the team. He did an interview today where he pointed out exactly what he's always said. It's a two-man job to be the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. And so those two guys right there are the best 1-2 punch in the National Hockey League. And there was no way he was going to let Jeff Gorton go anywhere, despite the fact that there were 3 different teams asking for his services. Jeff Gorton's happy in Montreal. His family's happy here. So just like the players, it's the same concept. They want to be happy where they're working. And we all know that Jeff Gorton wants to finish the story this time. He wants to get to the end of the road with his rebuild. He wants to see the fruits of his labor. He doesn't want to see it fall apart like he did when he handed the team over to Chris Drury in New York when he was fired. by the Rangers. So we get to enjoy him and Kent Hughes at least for the next 6 years, which is fantastic. And I don't think there's a single Montreal Canadiens fan that's sad about that fact. So tomorrow, on our next show, we'll preview the Nashville Predators coming into Montreal on Thursday to play against the Montreal Canadiens. In the comments, tell me what you saw in tonight's hockey game. Is there something that you think should have been done better by the Canadiens? Obviously, I've mentioned the shots on goal. That's one thing. But we can't complain about the faceoffs. They were better in this game. Shots on goal were even. Goals, can't really say anything because there were a lot of bad bounces against Monty. But, as I mentioned, he came out to the top of his crease. He used his stick to control the puck and close up his 5-hole, and he was tracking the puck extremely well. Those are the things that I looked for, that I asked for, and that people criticized me for, and he did all three in this hockey game. So I'm good with it. And if he continues to do that, you're never going to hear another thing about criticism when it comes to Monty. Unless, of course, he lets in a banana, which, a lot of goalies do, but that's another story for another day. But at the end of the day, they got a good performance from Montembeault. His teammates picked him up, and the Canadiens came away with a 5-4 overtime win. Thanks to our partners, Insta Customs and to cheapesttshirts.ca. Thanks to you for watching, and join us for our preview tomorrow.